Okay, well, welcome everyone to episode 1 of the Elouise Show. Today we will be discussing Blackness in Bushwick. Our featured guest today is Sherri Danielz. Sherri was born on September 9th, 1995 in Sicklerville, Camden, New Jersey. Sherri Danielz was adopted until she was discovered by her biological grandmother at age 7. She then moved to Astoria, Queens, where she lived until being placed in foster care. Sherri later picked up photography through a workshop originally meant for extracurricular activities in her group home. Having shown great interest, the Felix organization awarded her with her first camera. Using it, she then went on to capture her imagination through life experiences, fashion, emotions, and collaborative work. She received her diploma from City As Schools using photo and media internships to develop her skill set in visual arts. She has just received a $15,000 scholarship to further her studies in the Creative Practices program at the International Center for Photography, where she will begin this summer. Welcome, Sherri, to the Elouise Show. How are you today?
Hi, how are you doing? Good. How are you doing?
I'm well.
Here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so prior to us going live, we were starting to have a really great conversation. I really wanted to get started because I know people will be joining from other states. So not everybody is familiar with the culture in New York, specifically with the culture in New York right now. So I wanted to know how you would describe your experience as a Black woman residing in Bushwick today.
So I actually gave this question a lot of thought because being from New York, I grew up here. So I actually had the opportunity to get NYCHA housing. So I don't know if you know what NYCHA housing is, but it's basically the projects, it's PJs, you know. But because I grew up in foster care, I would have been like pushed first up on that list. But I got caught up in the projects. I was like smoking and stuff like that. So I basically got banned. So in being banned, I had to then basically rent out an apartment in Bushwick, you know, because I wanted to live in Brooklyn around all my other artist friends. So I'm basically in the same setting as a gentrifier, you would say. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I have to pay $850 for a room, which is like extremely expensive, and I don't have the money to pay it because I'm from here. So I struggle to pay rent. And I mean, during this quarantine, it's been a little bit easier because of unemployment and everything. But I mean, yeah, it's usually a struggle because rent is so expensive in New York, especially being from New York. And I had the opportunity to only pay like $400 for rent. So it's kind of like a blow to my gut, you know what I'm saying? And with that being said, I see a lot of just like comfort from, you know, people who like have moved here who aren't from New York and like have the money to pay for it. And I also see like a lot of people from here struggling. So that doesn't really like sit right with me. And I believe that the government really needs to put more things in motion for people who are from New York, especially young people who are moving out of their parents' house and need assistance with apartments and rooms. I think there should be more shit set in line for situations like that. Because they're not thinking about the kids who want to move out of their parents' house, because I'm not sure if they want everybody to move out of their parents' house because they're too busy gentrifying the neighborhood. So what can we do to help progress the young people who are trying to make it on their own in New York and are trying to like make a living and don't want to pay $850 for a room the size of a closet? So that's my thought.
$850 for a room the size of a closet in New York. New York is actually a good price. They are selling rooms for I've seen rooms.
And I mean, it's crazy. Like, yeah.
I've seen rooms $1,000, $1,200. I've seen through the roof here.
Yeah. When I first moved out on my own, my first room, I was being bougie because, you know, I grew up in a group home. So like, I grew up in a group home where I had my own room and I was in a motherfucking group home living with people that I didn't know. And now you're going to tell me that I have to pay $850 to do the same thing? You got me fucked up. So I was like, all right, if I'm going to have to do this, I want my own bathroom. Bitch.
And that's, if you have bedroom in New York with your own bathroom, you're living it up. You're living large. Like, it's
You are
great.
like,
You rich.
people used to be like, oh, you got a bathroom in your room?
On the normal day in New York, normally in New York, the price is through the roof. It's unaffordable to live in. It's really hard to start a career here, to move out of your home, let alone like live an entire life here. It's because the prices just keep increasing. The cost of living is constantly increasing, but the pay that you're receiving for jobs is not increasing.
That's not even equal.
So now we have that happening, right? We're now on what month are we in? July. So we're now on the like New York 4th month of COVID.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Sure, it was here beforehand. We're now in the New York 4th month of COVID. We're in phase 2. I think
yeah.
What's happening with phase 3? I know it said that restaurants are not going to open on the inside. So you have people spending an immense amount of time inside. They've been around their family for 4 months now, right? Some people, if they had a job that was on the books, and let's talk about it because not everybody has a job that's on the books. So some people who have had work that's on the books are now receiving unemployment. For some, it's less than what they were making. For a lot, it's way more than what they were
making. Me, exactly. For me, it's more. So it's like, damn, like I'm living it up how I should have been living
a long time ago. But now that's
money to pay us.
The additional COVID stimulus money is supposed to end on July 31st, right? So there's that. So you have now the outside is opening up, and the outside is opening up. I like that phrase. And people are going out, they're spending their money. People are buying fireworks or getting them for free, allegedly.
Don't get me there. Don't get me there yet.
There's that. There's the there's people splurging on restaurants and Uber Eats.
Let's talk about it. The sneaker stores opened up. And there's lines down. We need to be investing. I'm so disappointed. I have my unemployment, my little extra money. I refuse to buy apparel.
And then that goes into the next part of this. We have these protests that are happening, right? And prior to starting, we were talking about cancel culture. So if you're buying apparel, if you're investing in these places, like who are you buying from? Are you buying from the same people that we canceled? We may not have canceled them in 2020, but at some point, certain people were not, it's not okay. How many New York is known for Tim's. I believe Timberland was the one who said, I don't make my shoes for Black people. But New Yorkers, specifically in the hood, spend bread.
Let's get into it. Tommy Hilfiger.
I'm saying, so we have
is openly racist.
Unemployment through the roof. We have unemployment through the roof in a city that was already expensive to live in. As a result of COVID, the cost of living is through the roof too. Like simple things, like hate to talk.
They have raised the prices. Has
gone up, right?
They have raised the prices on everything.
You have the protests happening. And then it's not even just what's happening with marches, because the marches, when you live in New York, it's not that crazy. But when you look on your timeline, when you look on your feed, like it's just Blackness is in your face, wokeness is in your face, and it's coming from people that you haven't ever seen this from. So there's the constant reminder of like your dictated, inferiority that isn't a thing. We are not inferior to anyone, but we've been taught to be.
So much knowledge is being thrown around.
It's thrown in your face, right? So you have that. And then, you know, all you want to do at the end of the day is lay your head down and go to sleep. But every night for the past month, between the hours of 9 p.m. and 3 a.m., you got fireworks.
And I'm trying to understand, because I have called out a couple of people personally that I know. I even like, I'll send you the footage. I even like, there was like protesters walking down my block, and I went outside and I was like walking with them for a little bit. As soon as I got to the corner, you know, they were throwing the fireworks down at the protesters. I got so mad because I'm like, why would you add to the, why so patriotic?
Is it patriotic?
You know what fireworks represent? Like, why so patriotic?
So for those who don't know, can you please explain what fireworks are meant to represent? Because maybe people don't know.
Let's get the Google. Let's get the Google in here. I'm gonna read it to you.
Let me do a quick screen share and pull it up on Google Chrome.
Fireworks are a sign of happiness, celebration, and news of wealth. Fireworks dreams are related to happiness and celebration. However, they also come with signs of negativity. The fireworks in the sky give temporary happiness, and after a few minutes, bring the sky back to darkness. Now, what are we celebrating? What are we celebrating?
And then the history of fireworks.
What are we celebrating?
See, so for as long as Americans can remember, the nation has celebrated 4th of July by staging grand fireworks shows in public squares and lighting smaller displays at home. Why do we commemorate Independence Day by setting off thousands of explosions? So in doing like a quick Google search on it, like the first thing that comes to mind is 4th of July. And for as long as I've ever seen fireworks, known of fireworks, I've always associated it with 4th of July. But then of course, there's some people who do it like on special occasions, you know, so yes, it's celebratory. So then, yeah, going back to your question, what are we celebrating? I have no clue. I know 4th of July is this weekend. I got invited to a couple of parties and I reminded people I don't celebrate.
What are we celebrating? You got to remind people, what are we celebrating?
So let's get down to it. So it's not just happening in New York. I did research on it. And actually the fact that it's not just happening in New York was even more mind-boggling, but it's actually happening in hoods damn near everywhere. So even like upstate hoods are having fire.
And there's rumors that there's these black SUVs coming around, dropping these fireworks off and giving them away to kids.
Well, so I have a friend here in New York City who basically has a membership to one of the firework places in Pennsylvania. And they're apparently selling fireworks for dirt cheap this year specifically. And so this particular person went there, bought in bulk at this very low rate and started selling them at a lower rate than usual, but it's high enough where they're making a profit off of these fireworks. So there's that. But then
why do you think that these fireworks have been lowered in prices this year specifically? Can we pull up the statistics on firework sales? Can we find that?
Yes, we can. I don't know the reason.
Let's not get too into it, but if you want to really research that, I would love to know.
Yeah, hold on. Let me look into that. I don't know why they're doing that specifically right now, but what does interest me is this parallel. The parallel between the increase of fireworks, right? Obviously, like there's never been a time in my entire 31, about to be 32 years of living, did I ever experience a month of fireworks every single night consistently
like that
throughout the night. Like who has money like that? So there's an exponential increase in fireworks shows, right? All throughout New York.
And I would be really disappointed if people are spending their unemployment on fireworks.
I don't doubt it. Number two, there's also a significant increase in gun violence. There is a more than what, because there's always an uptick in violence in the summertime.
Shootings in the Bronx.
And there was an expected uptick for summertime violence because everyone was, cooped up during COVID. But the uptick in gun violence right now is greater than the expected increase, right? And then what we're having, because of the protests and the requests for police to back off and defunding the police, what I'm not hearing too much of in New York City right now are sirens. So you're seeing a decrease of police interactions. So what's really interesting to me is the parallel between these fireworks and gun violence, and they're in.
Can we talk about how the police were parading around in circles uptown?
Oh, in Harlem, yes, in the middle of the night.
With fireworks going off?
In the middle of the night. And it's honestly, the thing that's unsettling to me is human behavior is human behavior. You're always gonna have people doing different things, but the way that society is acting right now is unpredictable, and it's wild, and it looks like we're at the precipice of anarchy. It looks like things are gonna get crazier than it already is.
I'm just wondering who scheduled these fireworks to go off from 9 to 3 a.m. Because it's on, what time is it right now?
It's 8:20.
If we make it to hear it, if we make it, it'll be right on time. They might even let them off a little early.
And then I've never been so happy for rain in the summertime. So was it last night or 2 nights ago where it poured and I only heard one firework at midnight?
Yes.
Yes.
Because they couldn't.
Okay. So
psychological preparation, psychological warfare. There's a lot of different conspiracies on why these fireworks are going off. But when you look at the patterns and you look at how things are going, you look at the money, you look at the sales, you look at the timing, you look at the people who are doing it too. It's just they're getting it randomly. It's just what the fuck,
Yeah, it looks like, oh no, this is 2015 firework increase. It's actually, I can't actually find right now the stats of increase on fireworks. I think we're probably gonna have to wait out this season and see exactly what those numbers were. But I did read an article, I wanna say last week, about the number of noise complaints because of fireworks. So, and in the article, it was a New York Times article. In the article, it specifically stated that there was an increase in noise complaints, but also there's a decrease in, it explicitly stated that there's a decrease in police interaction.
I know exactly what article you're talking about, and I'm trying to pull it up.
And I'm sure that that's a direct result of our request, for a decrease in police interaction.
Because so it's not coming.
It's be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. It might come true. What were you gonna say?
It's not coming from all of the people of color, all the Black people that I know are the ones complaining about the fireworks. I remember I took a nap and I woke up because I heard a firework, and I thought that shit was coming in my window. I looked down outside my window because I'm on the second floor. So I looked down and I see smoke coming up off the ground. They were literally shooting fireworks at the ground that night. So Like I literally took a nap, and if I had I not taken a nap, had I been just going about my day, like I wouldn't have recognized like how loud and how aggressive these fireworks actually are. Like these are not like regular fireworks. These are aggressive as fuck. So I go on Instagram and I'm like, this is like when it first started happening. I go on Instagram and I like write it out and I'm like, yo, like I'm convinced that I'm like, I'm convinced white supremacists are behind these fireworks because like these shits are mad loud, like, and they're continuous. And I basically had stated it. It was like 2 a.m. Mad people started commenting like, yo, and this is like when it first started happening. And it was people from Philly, it was people from the Bronx, it was people from Brooklyn, it was people in Florida commenting on my shit, like being like, yo, what is going on? Yo, I said the same thing. In DC.
Everywhere at the same time, specifically in impoverished neighborhoods.
Like, I'm telling you.
Talk about that. Like it's happening in impoverished neighborhoods.
And why am I paying $8.50 in an impoverished neighborhood? We're gonna get back to the first jump. Sorry, I meant to say that.
No, exactly. Why is the cost of living, you know, in an impoverished area, in a known impoverished area, $8.50? How is it that the cost of living, how is it that my groceries, like certain things have doubled in price? How are you expecting people to eat, right? And then the surplus of income that
never meant for us, sorry.
And the surplus, well, yeah, obviously, but the surplus of income that you're giving people is about to end. And so some people's unemployment, like that extra $600 a week is the get cute in New York, but it's not all the way cute in New York because while some people were getting paid, like some people who make minimum wage don't even qualify for housing. And then they have to pay, God forbid they have a family, they're paying easily $1,800 for a month for rent. And that's a steal. That's a 1 bedroom. And God forbid you need a 2 bedroom.
And you know how long it takes to get the lottery, like the housing lottery in New York City? I'm still waiting. So because I don't want to live in NYCHA housing that's basically guarded by the police. They're walking up and down the steps. Okay, imagine living in an apartment building and the police are walking up and down the steps of your building all the time. Yeah. That's what it's like to live in NYCHA housing. So you're telling me that in order to live in New York City, being from New York, I have to be stalked by police every single day and expose myself to brutality every single day, or wait for years and years to get this housing lottery, right? That then you might get it, you might not. People wait years. Do you remember Section 8? Okay. My grandmother waited in line with her diabetes and her arthritis for Section 8 so that she could feed my family. And she is from New York. She raised her kids in Brooklyn. And you mean to tell me that y'all are gonna gentrify my hood? And I can't even afford to live here? And I gotta pay $8.50 and there's people coming from all over the world who are paying rent. These Jews, I'm sorry, but they're fixing up these houses and buying it from these people who can't afford to hold it up when there should be funds put together to help these people keep their houses.
I know the focus of this conversation is Bushwick, but just on the note that you just made, I just want to let you know that it's not just happening here. All along the Hudson River, the hoods and the hoods that are suburb adjacent along the Hudson River are now also being bought up. So now let's say back in the day, not even back in the day, but like back in 2000, early 2000, 2010, right? Let's say you couldn't afford to live in New York City, but you still wanted to be in New York. You still wanted to live and be a part of your city. Okay, so you would be able to move along the Hudson to get cheaper housing. Now the pricing along the Hudson has gone up as well, right? The cost to commuting has also gone up. But then like the high paying jobs are in New York City. It's almost as if it's making it impossible to attain the jobs that you want or live the lifestyle that you need You know, it's almost like they want all Black people in
to go away.
In Atlanta, go to Atlanta, go to Florida. You know what I'm saying?
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how a lot of this land was supposed to belong to Black people. Going back, all right, in New York City, right? Let's talk about Seneca Village. So for Juneteenth, we just did Seneca Village. We just went back to Seneca Village. We did the vendors. We had everybody come out and speak, and it was beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Seneca Village was in Central Park. So Manhattan, when you look at Manhattan now and like where 34th Street and all of that shit is, that shit was supposed to be in Tribeca, right? But then they wanted to have a park. So then they moved the city up here and they kicked everybody out their houses, and it belonged to Black people and Irish people. All of like, from like 62nd up was Black people. That was Seneca Village. You could look at it, you could walk through Central Park today, and they got the little info, and it says Seneca Village, African. There was churches. And we walking, y'all niggas these motherfuckers is walking their dogs on the grounds of churches that they kicked out of their houses. So then we gonna go back, right? So when they signed the Emancipation, they was gonna give Black people Florida and all of down south. So Florida, Atlanta, Louisiana, all of that shit was supposed to belong to Black people, and they killed them. Why do you think they killed them? We were supposed to have reparations. You want to talk about reparations? We were supposed to have states. The South was supposed to belong to Black people if you really want to get down to it. But they don't tell you that because they don't want us to know that, because we never got our reparations. When you walk around Williamsburg, right? You see all the Jewish people, right? They got their own schools. They got their own ambulance. They got their own cops. They handle each other. You know why? Because they got their 40 acres and a mule. Where's our 40 acres and a mule? And that's what the ancestors been saying for so long.
A lot of people don't know that America, the United States of America, paid the Jews reparations, but wasn't it Germany that committed the crime? So the question is, if the Jews can get paid reparations from the United States of America, why can't, African Americans, why can't Black America receive the same?
They just gave us the motherfucking stimulus checks, they got the money, they can print it. So what if the value of the dollar goes down? It was never significant anyway. Money is the root of all evil.
But number two, the question is, let's say that there were, let's say America wanted to give us a platform. They were ready to hear us out about reparations, because people throw around this word in the 2020 presidential election. They talk, people have mentioned reparations, giving Black people reparations. I want to know, what does that mean? Number one, when others say it, but number two, what do we want it to mean? Like, in terms of reparations, in terms of reform, what would you like to see?
Well, I love this question, right? Because when it goes down to reparations need to be like, we need to really benefit off of reparations, right? And I don't think Black people will benefit off of getting a dollar bill. We need a 750 credit score. All Black people need a 750 credit score. All Black people. If you were rooted from slavery, if your roots go back to slavery, you need a 750 credit score. I don't care what your lifestyle is. I don't give a fuck if you're in jail. That's the reparations. Now, on top of that, give us the South. But that's a push. That's what I would want. But we're gonna focus on the 750 credit score. Right? But along with those 750 credit scores, I want them to provide financial training and credit training free with that 750 credit score. So that when we go to the banks and we take out loans for these properties that we about to buy up with this 750 credit score, we gonna know how to keep it. That's what I want. And I believe that is the true reparations. That's it. And then you know what? A cash bonus on top of that. 50,000.
I think that sounds nice. I always believe that a major, and you touched upon a major way to actually get the reform that we want to see is in education. So you're saying, you know, provide us with classes on financial classes, provide us on credit classes. I also think that, you know, community leaders or like, you know, Black nonprofits need grants to, you know, or even maybe like individuals who want to do this, open schools, like grants so that we can open schools. So like the same way you have a Catholic school, you know, you can have like, you know, cultural schools, you know, schools. Okay, so maybe everybody in America doesn't want to learn Black history, right? That's fine. That's fair. I don't want to shove any
curriculum. I don't want to be taught. I don't want to be taught their curriculum no more. We need our own curriculum. We need our own police. We need our own hospitals. We need our own therapists. We need our own rehabilitation centers. We need our own spiritual centers. We need our, fuck that. Don't partner with me.
That's a major conversation, because while we're talking about evaluating, you know, the focus right now of the Black Lives Matter movement, which by the way is led by white people right now, but the focus of the Black Lives Matter movement is defunding the police specifically, right? But
and where we putting them funds in the Democratic Party?
But I think that that's not enough of a request, number one. And number two, I think that we need to be careful when we're requesting certain things like that, because when we're saying defund the police, are we being specific as to what they're specifically defunding? Like, what are we taking away out of their budget, you know, to defund the police? Because I think that some people are equating defund the police to absolutely no police. And I don't know that
disarming the police. We need to be disarming the police, not defund. Like, all right, no, we need to be defunding and disarming the police. I feel like the focus needs to be, I mean, people's beliefs in the police right now have completely faded, right? Because right now the police have been infiltrated by fuckers. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Like, who like don't want to see the evolution of the Black community. They don't know how to. You cannot put a white person or just, how do I say this in the most polite way? I'm gonna make an analogy, right? If I'm going to the club, right? If the doorman is some like puny, passive, submissive person, right? Why would I make him a doorman? He's not going to be, he's gonna, you know what I mean? And then you give that doorman a stick, of course the doorman is gonna resort to using that stick. So these people are not, they're afraid. You can't police someone you're afraid of. You're a submissive, passive person. You're not meant to be a police officer. If you resort to pulling your gun because you're too afraid to tackle somebody down, and not even that, like, I'm not even gonna say tackle somebody down and like hurt them, but like do it in like a not even professional, but in a healthy, like what, like, first of all, like, I don't understand how every single time somebody has a gun, it ends up with them dying, right? For instance, Corrine Gaines, that was one female with all, and I have been taken on by, like, when I got arrested in NYCHA, they sent, like, these niggas was like, they weighed like 200 plus pounds, big ass niggas for me. Now, had I had a weapon on me, they would have shot me down too. Right? So when we go back to Corrine Gaines, right? She was sitting in her home with a gun in her hand, yes. But y'all niggas, it was like 10 of y'all sitting outside of her. Y'all told me y'all couldn't just go away. And even if y'all went in there, y'all couldn't disarm her. Y'all pussy like that. I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry, I know we on live, but like, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
it's how you feel, and it's a very real sentiment. And I just think that part of having the conversation is
that's
like
crazy.
our entire system
Y'all
needs
didn't want to disarm her. You know
Right.
why? Because she had that cardboard on the back of her car that said, I'm in the pursuit of happiness. And if you try to stop me, and they tried to stop her. And that's what they did because they wanted to prove a point because they're evil. So nobody can tell me that was an evil ass. Those motherfuckers went after her because she was in the pursuit of her fucking liberation.
That's on your neck. Liberation. So, oh yeah, absolutely. But I think that what you're saying raises a really great point, and that's why part of the conversation needs to be about evaluating the entire system end to end. And like, I think that cops train for like 6 months in New York State. And I think that, you know, it takes me 4 years to get a bachelor's in art, but a cop 6 months to be like ready to be on the street patrol.
A lawyer is not even, a lawyer don't even hold a gun.
And granted, like, I'm not saying that cops have to pay for their education and for their training. By all means,
guns away from these cops.
But I think that
cops.
I think that it's okay. I feel you. I think that training for police officers should actually maybe be longer so that they can learn more hand-to-hand combat, so they can learn how to psychologically just diffuse a situation, so that they can learn more about different cultures. Or maybe like you have majors in have majors in the police force. So if you're going to be a cop in like a predominantly Chinese neighborhood and you're not of Chinese culture, you know how to interact with them. If you're going to be a cop in a Black neighborhood, you know, an impoverished Black neighborhood, if you're going to be a cop in an impoverished Black neighborhood, you can know how to interact with impoverished Black people. Or if you're a cop in a Black suburb, because cultures are different. So you have to understand the culture of the people that you're in.
Yeah, I personally think that they're not able to do that. And that's why we need our own police.
Okay, so, and then if
people of color, white people can police themselves, but, and that's the thing, it's like a lot of things that we need, they sound unattainable. They really sound unattainable because we have the right to bear arms, right? But why do they get to carry big ass assault rifles when everybody has the right to bear arms? But then when somebody bears arms, they shoot them down. That's in our Second Amendment right. Not to sound like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so there's people, you know, like, not to bring it into the guns, like, but it's just like anything that we want right now, it just seems very unattainable because the system just needs to be like they can't, like, they are not able to govern us. The police, the police are not able to police us because they are not capable of taking on people who they are intimidated by. You cannot police somebody you're intimidated by.
The question becomes, so you raised 2 points, 2 good points. Number one, the question becomes, why are Black bodies seemingly weaponized? Like, why are we seen as something to be intimidated by? Why are people fearing us? Number one, and then bringing it back to the conversation.
Workers, we're strong. We are resilient.
But then bringing it back also to the conversation that we were having about the focus of the Black Lives Matter movement and how they're focusing on defunding police. Another conversation that needs to be had is resources for Black communities, number one. Number two, like also revamping or recreating our education system. You know what I'm saying? So if we are to eventually self-police, if we are to eventually, you know, kind of, for lack of a better way to say it, segregate ourselves so that we can have the community that we want, we have to first define what that community looks like. But we can't define what that community looks like until we educate ourselves. So I feel like it goes back to like us learning more about us as a society, us as a people, what it is that we want as a collective. Because I think that when you say reparations, when you say reform, just like Black people are different in so many ways, everybody has a different idea in their head of what that looks like. Somebody literally wants 40 acres and a mule. Somebody literally wants a certain dollar amount in their bank account. Somebody is like, yo, I'm just good with the credit score. Like, you know what I'm saying? For everybody, it's something different.
I think I think it's a collection of everything. I think it's the credit score. I think it's the police reform. I think it's the school reform. Like, I think that, Black people need their own charters. Like, I mean, how HBCUs, I love that concept for public schools, for not public schools, but for Black schools. You understand? Like we need that kind of concept, like, for younger schools, for kids, all the way down to kindergarten and pre-K.
Exactly. So we need our own schools. We need, so that we can learn more about ourselves and our culture and our way of learning. So also, when you study like our history, our African lineage, you also look at the fact that the way that we receive information and the way that we communicate culturally is not the same way that we're forced to learn, and communicate in like your average public school, or in my case, because I didn't go to public school, elementary, I went to Catholic school. Like it's a very different way. The way that you naturally are is very different from the way that you are supposed to be in, a scholastic environment, in an academic environment. So it's defining what that looks like for us. How do we learn? How do we learn effortlessly? How do we consume information? Because I had a conversation with someone, about the word ghetto. And it's always interesting to me how people define the word ghetto, because to me, ghetto is a culture. It's not exactly it's not a descriptive word in terms of like, so I asked the person what ghetto means and they were like, oh, ignorant. And I'm like, ghetto's not ignorant. There's plenty of smart ghetto people.
Ghetto is a slum. Like it's actually a neighborhood too. Like a ghetto is like where you're from. It's like a struggle,
But just like China is a place and Chinese people are Chinese because they're from China, I feel like the same thing is true of the word ghetto. Ghetto is a place, but then ghetto is the people from that place. But that does not mean that those people are less than. It doesn't mean that they're ignorant. It doesn't mean that they're, unintelligent. It doesn't mean that they don't read. It doesn't mean that they're not, they can't be classy or well-mannered. There are plenty of classy ghetto people. You know what I'm saying? So I went off on a tangent, but but yeah, I think it's really important for us to control our narrative of what it is we want, how it is we want to be defined. And we also have to work on, I think we touched on this before the call started. We also have to work on our need to like have approval from outside sources on what it is that we're doing, right? So, and then with that said, sorry, this is a very long.
I'm getting my train.
But with that said, we also have to consider the fact that we may never receive these reforms and reparations that we say that we want. And if we're never going to receive it, we shouldn't wait around for our handout. The conversation then becomes, how do we evolve ourselves, like by ourselves? What is it?
What we've been doing for so long, and there's literally obstacles being set up for people, like not to sound like the victim, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I just feel like it's not even intentionally being set up. It's just systematically there. Even with coronavirus, it's like people are popping fireworks, or even people are paying their rent, and then it just still doesn't even like add up to enough for them to even like flip it into a life that they can afford. You understand? So it's just like, it's a loop. So like, you know how hard it is to get out of a loop that is systematically built to keep you in it.
I don't believe that it's.
And that's why I think we do need reparations. And like, it is something, I think that in this time, like, it's the perfect time to demand reparations. Like, it's the perfect time to demand reparations, I believe, because we need them. Like, I think that is something that if we're submissive about it, and if we think of a life without reparations, we won't get them. I know that sounds wild, but like, that's like our ancestors was mad nice about it. Like, nah, we need to demand reparations. This is crazy. They keep killing us. Nothing's changing. Even this pandemic is killing more Black people, right? They're not doing much to rehabilitate the hoods. They're gentrifying our hoods. It's getting worse.
So what are we supposed to?
It's getting more expensive. I can't even, as a young Black person, I struggle every day, and I'm worried about how I'm gonna end up because my rent is expensive and I'm trying to make a living for myself.
Listen, what do you think is the right course of action? And number two, I just want you to know the fireworks just started here. But what do you think is the right course of action?
Hold on.
In terms of going about reparations, or in terms of going about what we deserve, since we have the spotlight right now, the world is looking at Black America. The world wants to know, what it is that we need, what is it that we need and how are we going to go about it? What do you think? Like, okay, so there's the protests, got that, check. There are the petitions, got that, check. What else can people do?
I think that the funding that is being passed around needs to be public knowledge. I'm talking about every single dollar that's going to Black Lives Matter needs to be made public, right? And I think that it needs to be distributed accordingly. And this is where I think it needs to be distributed. I think we need to focus on the inner communities, funding small businesses, giving small businesses grants. I think we need to advocate for people within our communities, right? Giving them rehabilitation centers, right? Putting yoga, putting financial training into the hoods. That's where this money needs to be going. I think there needs to be more agricultural studies. I think there needs to be lower priced organic foods. Like, there needs to be more Trader Joe's and stuff like that in the hood. Like, but led by Black people. Like, invest in Black Trader Joe's, led by some good Black people who want to see the advancement of the Black health, who want to sell some elderberry syrup or something like that. That's what I want to see in the hood. I don't want to see no more Family Dollar selling fucking Oreo cookies for the low so that they can get the Black people to buy it and make themselves sick. Because you know what? Like, I have family members that have personally suffered from like just not even having the money to afford. I grew up like not having the money to afford real food. And so I had to eat fucking Family Dollar food and you know what I mean? And like, that's a big reason on why the health crisis is the way it is and why our community is not living through this pandemic. And so I think that's where a lot of the funds need to go to. I want to see a Black supermarket, a Black chain Trader Joe's style supermarket come out of this pandemic, and I want to see it from the Black Lives Matter funding from that 23 billion, however much money that and I want all of these funds to be public knowledge on every single website. I want a web page. I want a page.
How the funds are allocated.
I want to see it, because you know what? If it's there, then nobody can question it. Nobody can question it. So that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see from my community. I want to see more inner city sports programs, more inner city, like advocates. I want to see just like get people off the streets. Like, oh, I love that Black owned Lyft like fare. I think that Black owned cabs should partner with community centers and start getting these kids home safely. I think that could be a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to talk about direct reparations now, there's a lot of money being thrown around right now. So I think a lot of money could go into stuff like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I also got some other stuff. Hold on. Did I talk about posture training and art therapy?
You did not.
So in gym, right? Like, all right, why am I climbing ropes in gym? Why am I do yoga in gym? You know what I mean? There should be posture training. So, all right, I have a big thing. So I have always had like bad posture, right? So I'm really working on my posture right now. And I truly believe that posture brings confidence. When I sit up straight, I feel like I can take on the world. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, ooh, Sherri, you that bitch. You know what I mean? So I truly, I truly believe that posture training should be in gym and should be in classes from a young age too. Like, you know, not on no like militant shit, but on some like, you know, like self-worth, like, you know, like empowerment. Like, I think like school should be more empowering, you know, like more connected, like get kids more connected to their higher selves, if that makes sense. Like, you know, like yoga is very good, like for stretching. Like there should be yoga. Like, why am I just like doing random stretches and then you're making me play basketball and you smack people in the face with fucking dodgeballs? Like, you know, like there should just be more intentional with like the curriculum, you know? Like, I feel like we are advanced enough as a society to like make our curriculums more up to date as to where we are as a community, like, and as a society now. Like, we're not where we were in 2000, you know, like, yeah. I lost my train of thought, but.
All those things are great recommendations. So then I guess the next question would be, how do we condense all of our ideas into one place, and how do we go about, you know, this reform? We're slowly running out of time, and I really want to show something, because you talked about gentrification. So your social media is at Sherri Danielz, right?
With this, yes.
And you're very vocal on your social.
Yes.
I could be a rapper or whatever. You're very vocal on your social. So I pulled this from your social media. And then I just want you to tell me a little bit about it.
People riding down this block, and these white people start saying, "Get out of here, niggas. You know, get out my neighborhood. Don't come to this neighborhood." Then they start hitting on her. Throwing rocks and everything else. Throwing rocks. We were in their neighborhood. They always say we're doing everything, right? We didn't, every time the white people come down the block, we don't push them out their neighborhood and throw rocks and start hitting them. We don't bother the white people around our neighborhood, but when we get in a white neighborhood, they just put us out.
That's the way you treat an animal. I mean, God, we're human beings. You don't treat other people like that. It's just wrong. Black, white, I don't care. A person is a person. Skin should have no bearing on how you treat a person.
Yes. So I just find it funny how with all of this gentrification going on, you really don't see Black people beating up on these white people who are moving into the hood right now. You don't see it, you know? So like, I really, that video really stuck out to me because, you know, even with like, you know, I have neighbors, I live in the Bend, like, because I have to rent out apartments. So I have Caucasian neighbors, you know what I mean? So, but they are a little bit rude. They don't talk to people, you know, like, I just feel like I can't stress enough how, like, if you want to come into somebody's hood, when I walk into anybody's hood, when I walk into anybody's house, all right, because I was raised by my grandmother, you are supposed to acknowledge the people around you. Point blank, period. There is no reason why you creeping around somebody's hood like this, getting big dogs and shit to protect yourself because you're fucking scared. If you're scared, get out. Why are you here? When we don't even bother you, when we should. I'm sorry. But they psychologically, like, they walk around all scary and like, even like, you know, the card list, my friend made a great point at like the swipe list, like the cashless coffee shops and shit like that in Brooklyn. That's anti-poor, that's anti-Black. Shit like that, I'm sorry, but I don't believe that white people should be coming up in Brooklyn opening businesses. That's not for you. Get the fuck out. I'm sorry, excuse me.
Well, that's actually that's a very interesting point because
I have people that I know.
If you look at it from like a national perspective, you know how like a citizen of another country can't just live here, can't just work here, can't just, you know, open up a business here. They have to get like visas. So I think that's an interesting point that you raised. Question being, should we move to a space where if you're not from the neighborhood, if you're not from the area, should you
be able to rent?
You should have to probably go through an application process maybe to have like
valid in the hood.
to have a city.
You gotta be valid. You're not coming to him, you're not valid. She not. Fuck out of here.
Is that what we're saying? Show me your hood visa.
Yo, show me your hood visa. You're not valid.
Come here. You gotta be invited by one of the OGs in order to stay.
But you gotta be invited by the homies. Nah.
And I would be remiss because I did introduce you and I did talk about your background. I would be remiss to not show some of your artwork. So I'm gonna go back to my little slideshow here. And
yeah.
This is from your last project. What was the name of the project?
This is actually from 2018. It's called All Power to the People. And I don't know, I woke up, I swear to God, I'm a vessel for this project. Like, I woke up, I get downloads when I like wake up in the morning, like early, like when I'm asleep, like halfway and then out of sleep. And something just told me, like, it was when Black Panther was coming out. And I was like, what about the real Black Panthers? And so I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm about to pay homage to the real Black Panthers. And so that's when I turned around and I did this. And I got everybody together. It was snowing and raining. And I was like, no, please, we have to do this. Like, we have to do this. Something is telling me that we have to do this. And then fast forward 2020, what am I saying? Black unity. This is what's going on right now. And so it's just really crazy. Like, I just feel like, you know, we were warned, you know, like, and I think it was something that, like, behind the scenes, it was necessary the whole time. And like, we should have been organizing from a long time ago, but we're here now. Yeah.
So I think that that's the photos are so beautiful. And I like how, even though in terms of like, if you're, I don't want to say a fashion buff, but if you're like the type of person that pays attention to like pieces, it's clearly 2018, well, not clearly 2018, but clearly the later half of the 2000s. But if you look at style, positioning, like, and just the overall, it's just so,
well, yeah. You go back real quick.
The pieces are so very well, oh, did I close it? The pieces are so very well put together, like constructed. Okay, hold on, let me show you. So boom, hold on, share screen. Okay, so boom, like the way that this shot is set up, it captures the era, right? It captures the era, but like if you look at the pieces on the like what it says on the cardboard, right? Sandra Bland, that's clearly recent. But it you know, just the way you shot it, it looks like, you know, it's from the Black Panther era. You know? Look at that. This is so beautiful. It's so strong. And then your models did a great job of embodying, you know, the vibe. And then just
I had help from.
See how you have like the drops of water in there.
Everybody involved in the shoot was actually, everybody involved. That was God himself. That was God himself that day. But everybody involved in the shoot was very talented, very artistic, beautiful people, you know, like, so I appreciated every single one of them for coming out, like, and even with the creative direction, like, it was more like a team effort for me, you know, like, I really appreciated every single one of them for coming out that day, because like, I couldn't have done, like, the beauty of this series could not have happened without them. And I think that this series, what it embodies the most to me is unity, Black unity, you know, young people our age coming together and really making a difference and really tying in the past and the present to really make a better future.
This specific shot right here reminds me of a quote that I read today that said, Black joy is, what does it say? Black joy is a form of rebellion. And
Wow.
That's beautiful, because you have, you know, your protesters here, but they have this huge smile on their faces. Okay, before we wrap.
All right.
I have one last question for you.
Okay.
What do you love most about being Black?
You know, when I first reviewed this question, I was like, damn, it's gonna be a hard question, because I'm like, yo, there's so many things I could tell you about being Black, because you know, I love the culture, I love the food, I love the rhythm. I love having rhythm. Ooh, when you walk into a party. But what I love most about being Black is perseverance. Mm-hmm. We have gotten through so much, and we gonna get through so much more. We did this, and we know we did it, and we got this. We got this. I think it's resilience and strength and perseverance and rhythm.
That's beautiful. I thank you so much, Sherri Danielz, for joining me on the very first episode of the Elouise Show. I feel like we could talk. You didn't even get to all the questions on the list, so I might have to bring you back another day. But thank you, everyone who tuned in, and for anyone who's going to tune in at a later date, you can follow Sherri Danielz at Sherri Danielz on Instagram. And you can follow me at Lynette Elouise, should you please.
And if you want prints, cop my prints on my website. My website will be dropping, so follow me on Instagram to get all that information. T-shirts, all of that. Yes.
Amazing photos. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a wonderful evening. If you're living in, play some music, turn on a fan to sleep through these fireworks. Bye, guys.
Bye.